This is the idea of nirvana. It's like you get to the point where it's not necessarily that you're not going to ever take rebirth again, but they might say you might take it consciously because you would not have to. You're not propelled unconsciously just by the nature of what you've been. You just have to be thrown back into another body and the inevitable sufferings. Now, I know a lot of people want to say that and want to think that, oh, no, life's wonderful, it's all good. And there is a truth to that. You can actually experience life as all good if you become sattvic in your energy and you begin to understand these things. But the truth is, quite often we're putting a gloss and we're not really owning up. Like our lizard brain is just going, no, we have to get through, this is the way it is. So we're not honest in different levels on ourselves of how much suffering there is in the world, how much suffering there has been in our lives, how vulnerable and exposed we are as meat beings to the winds of fortune, so to speak, and how the history of man has been just an incredible litany of abuse and sufferings. All the people that we studied in history, most of them were assholes. The kings and queens who just abused their... we think we're past that, but we're not. That's human nature and it's going on today. We're on the brink of potential extinction, and yet we go, oh yeah, it's all good, no problem. We have to get past that. And we can do that. We think that we're not... Our own experience isn't powerful, but when you see that you are consciousness, and as consciousness you are the whole world, you actually begin to understand that, as in the Matrix, you are the one. It's by you becoming the healing of all this. If you're at the center of a dream, imagine for a second. We feel so hopeless, we can't change the world. The world's not changing, it's all their fault, etc. Whether or not you're the one, it's still your dream. You're here for a reason. That reason is you have not gone beyond that. So from so many perspectives, it's your responsibility, and your experience is the first thing. It's the only thing you're going to have control over. And so even though that thought almost doesn't exist in our paradigm, people think of meditators and people on spiritual paths as like selfish or something, but they know that it's by them first being... that's where it exists within our paradigm. We know that we have to be the solution. But that's actually radically true. Until we really are the solution, so many of our efforts to change the world and be productive and all this stuff that we're supposed to believe in are meaningless. They come from a foundation which is broken. It's like building a building on a I'm sure there's something in the Bible on that, building a house on a base of sand. It's all about getting the base right. And even if your friends don't know what you're doing, which is what many people's fear of going into spirituality, or you're going to get boring and no one's going to understand what you're talking about and so forth, we need to introduce this. This needs to come back into culture. It needs to be respected. And why not be a pioneer? Because honestly, it literally has to come back. We think we're so smart that we've just overcome all the ignorant old people in the Dark Ages when they used to chop each other up with swords and so forth. But no, they had some ideals. Where have the ideals gone in our culture? Vague senses of ethics, but the problem is we're not having deep experience that guide those ethics. And spiritual paths are all about having deep psychological experiences, of profound things that can guide your experience in a way that you don't even have to do them anymore. Once the instinct of surrender or emptiness or compassion is inside you, it functions, it drives you. So to discover that not only gives meaning to your life, it also makes you a light in the world, which is exactly what Jesus said, I am the way, the truth and the light. I become the light. I become the one. I take responsibility for being the one. I am that, is the saying in Hinduism. I am is what God says in the Bible. It's the understanding that being is here. Everything appears into it. Even philosophically, it's like the, it's a version of solipsism or hermeneutics, I think, when much of the European philosophy, Heidegger and so forth, recognises that our paradigm has this idea that we've got a whole bunch of concrete things around. But in truth, what we know starts here. Consciousness is on. What we call people come in, and there's objects, there's a table, there's a person. But really, this is very dreamlike. It's just consciousness. It's always changing. Because everything has the capacity to change, it has no, in Buddhist terms, it has no inherent reality. If something was inherently real, it wouldn't change. It wouldn't be able to interact. But we have a world of interbeing, where all these supposed objects that we conceptualize and think are concrete and real are in constant flux and interrelation with each other. And in fact, to recognize that constant flux means that they have no concrete reality. It's identical to a dream. It's just a slightly different dream, an apparently longer lasting, more stable dream, but it has the fundamental nature of dreamlikeness. And that's actually the good news, as they say in the Bible. The good news is because it's dreamlike, even though we're kind of scared of the idea, oh my God, it's not real. You know, like in those Star Trek episodes, it's like, oh my God, what's real, you know? It actually means that life is ultimately pliable. Everything is possible. In God, all things are possible. You can become a Buddha. You are to become Buddha. This world is not limiting you. There is no real world. This is just like what the billions of stars are showing us, that it could be anything. You really could be on any planet like in Star Trek. You really could be spiders running. I mean, I don't mean to freak you out, but it's like everything is possible. And if you begin to see that the true sliding scale of reality, it's not like whether or not we're spiders or mammals or whatnot, it's whether or not we are one or separated. And even people poo-poo the idea of good and evil, of morality. Morality comes direct out of the absolute, because we know that when we're quiet, and we discovered this in meditation, the first thing that comes out, the first experience is goodness, truth, happiness, love, all the things we want. And we know that they're real. And what is virtue? What produces good karma in Buddhism? Not splitting the world into bits and pieces, not dicking it around, not stealing from it, not killing it, being one with it. You know, as I say, maybe we'll find out one day the hippies were right. Not in the way they dress necessarily, but the social movement that reflects it in a kind of a leftist thing that is one of the big political issues of our time, you know, left feet, right. Well, I would contend that, quite apart from the practicality, that the leftist side reflects open-mindedness, reflects literally a higher level of development, like in the chakra system. The heart is above the third chakra is power. Below that it's animal, it's like tribe. Our country wins, we're right. You know, how much money is the government going to give me, etc., etc. It's all about survival. It's essentially animalistic. The whole spiritual path, the whole motor of evolution is when we become higher than an animal. When we go to the heart and we become God-like, and we enter the path to return to union, which is what we want. It's the only thing that satisfies us. It's where bliss is, and we know it. And there is truth to virtue. It doesn't mean you have to be a boring person and you can't have a beer or you can't make love to your wife. But I mean, it means that you're not just taking a dump on everyone around you, basically, you know, in your relationship, in your life. And you don't get involved in things that are taking a dump.